bad one. Damn. Awesome, man. No worries. So like I said, I'm gonna lock it on your camera, but I'm not even gonna look at it. And since you're only working with one monitor, so one thing some people do is they actually, if they have one monitor, they actually get the document open on their phone. I think we don't need to. I think it's better. The game is a distraction, right? We only want to look at the replay when there's very specific things we want to look at. So I want you to actually tab out, and instead, let's take a look at your document and just go over a few things quickly, and then we can go back to the game and start talking through. So we're going to talk about ZvT. We're going to have a very quick mechanics overview. So let's scroll down to the mechanics first of all. So in your document, we go down page 2. You're control grouping your eggs. You're very comfortable with it. That's good. Control shift is not really that important. So we don't really need to talk about that. So the only time I use control shift is to remove units from a hotkey or a selection. For instance, you know what? Open the stream up actually, and I can show you first person just by you watching my screen. So let me know when you got the stream open.
Actually, I figured that out actually how to use it.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, it's fine.
Cool.
I'm watching the stream. Yeah.
So basically, yeah, it's just one of those things where, say you've pulled all your drones into a fight or something, you've got this weird, awkward
I'm ready.
army group. We would basically just, obviously there's a slight delay. Just mute the stream, because I can hear a bit of an echo there,
sorry.
and you're gonna hear double my voice. It'll be really confusing. No worries. So basically, say you've got a whole bunch of army, all your drones, queens, lings are over here. You want to send your workers back to mining. We would literally just right-click the minerals, Control Shift on the picture of the drone, Control Shift if there's a bunch of queens or overlords, and then remake our control group and continue our party. That's about it.
Right.
It's pretty rare we need to use that, especially once you start using control group stealing. You can use a dumping key for the same purpose, but it's a cute little mechanic that pre-Legacy of the Void was very useful for reorganizing. So not too important. You're slow at Shift deselecting is something you mentioned for putting spotters out. So we just saw you put some spotters out just here. So let's go take a little look at how we gave that order in this game. So I'm just going to very quickly, because you're about to send these zergings at 1. Right click, shift deselect, right click, shift deselect. That was totally fine. It wasn't super fast by any means. You can get faster at that with more practice. I think the big problem a lot of players have though is they feel like they can't take that couple of seconds to give those orders. That was like 5 seconds maybe. Let's actually check. 358 to I think 406. So it's 8 seconds. Let's check. Not even. Yeah, 6 or 7 seconds. So you look pretty comfortable at that. So that's really good. We don't need to look at the stream anymore. Just keep looking at your document now.
A new queen has emerged.
Okay, so with your hotkeys, creep queens. I looked through here. Creep queens is something we need a control group for. Okay. Oh no, you've already written that. W for creep queens. Okay, how did I not see that?
Yeah, so
Good,
I
good.
redirected 0 to W.
Our forces are under
1,
attack.
2, 3. I mean, okay, 1 to 3. I mean, that's fine. Honestly, most people don't use 3 army groups. I would ideally there's 4 that we would like to use. 3 is enough though. I think the main thing is normally what you want to think of this as is 1 main army, 2 special army. So what would that be? Muters, infestors, vipers, whichever is highest priority, right? So there's a thing you'll actually do where often you might have, say, 8 muters, which are very important when you first build them, but later in the game they're worthless, right? They're not important at all. Whereas maybe we have 6 infestors with our ultralisks or something, right? Obviously, the infestors are the important special army, so they'll take control group 2, right? So you should always have, to some extent, shifting priorities with those control grouts.
A new queen has
so that's
emerged.
good. As long as you're comfortable with that, that should be good. And then 3 can be one of 2 things. It can be your counterattack / drop defense squad. Or we can call it a run. I guess run by rather than counterattack is a better way to put that. So the idea there is if you're pinned back and you're defending lots of multi-prong, usually you don't have run bys hitting them that you're microing and a drop defense squad and your army running around. But if you're the one who's attacking, you're much more likely to have that run by squad. So the idea there is if we're on the back foot at all, or we want to be safe against drops, say, for instance, in this game, your main army's up at your third base, your drop defense squad always chills in your main, because that way you've got your two most exposed flanks completely protected, right? You've got them super covered from those different angles. And the important thing is that way you can very easily control your units, and we can control group steal onto them. So I guess another thing we can do is we can use 5
Our forces are under attack.
as
New queen
a
has
dumping
emerged.
key. Could be quite useful. So a dumping key is a key, it's a control group that we steal onto. I mean, actually, we wouldn't even want to use 5. We'd use 9, but then we'd use another key for it. So control group 9, and we can use maybe caps lock as dumping key. So that's a control group that we steal units onto without the intention of ever selecting that control group. So what that means is it's simply a way of removing units from our existing control groups using control group stealing. You said you were not using control group stealing, but I think you do understand how it works, right?
Yeah, I use it sometimes. Yes, I understand the concept. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You just don't use it very
Mineral
often.
cluster depleted.
Not very often. Usually, it's not. I need to
A new queen
get
has
acquainted
emerged.
more. In a way, get used more to it because I need to think. Still, I need to think about
Mutation
it. So it's
complete.
not an
We have
automatism
met
yet.
the enemy.
There's
command.
no, yeah.
I'm trying to implement it. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll try and build some more triggers in your play where you
The
say,
mineral
in this
field
scenario,
has been
I do
depleted.
this, right? Those are those
Yeah.
situations where a lot of the time we kind of say to ourselves, oh, I've got to get better at that, but we're not really sure how. And the important thing is always like map it out exactly. Leave nothing a chance. Just kind of go. For instance, the drop scenario I was talking about, you see a drop heading towards your main, you box 20 Zerglings, control group steal them onto
Mineral
the
field depleted.
onto your drop defense hotkey, number 3, send them off to your main base to defend that drop, right? And that's just like you do that every time, and it's like this is like a set play that you do when you see a drop heading towards your main, or if you
forces
keep
are
getting
under
dropped, you're
attack.
like, he's gonna keep dropping, I need units there just in case. Bam, and you do that, and it just becomes this set play we can kind of call from our memory and execute. So with a dumping key, this makes that even easier. So the idea is we don't even need modifiers. We literally set it up so we just select some stuff, press
We
caps
have
lock,
met the enemy in combat.
and those units will be removed from control groups. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's
So
cool.
if you think about it, normally when you go control 1, right, to create your army,
Yeah.
we can actually change that.
Mineral
So rather
field
than control
depleted.
1, it's just you press caps lock. And you press
Evolution
caps lock and
complete.
it does the same thing that control 1 does. The reason we don't
Yeah.
do that is because normally you press 1 to select the army, you go control 1 to create the army. It's very intuitive, it makes sense. But if we're literally just using it to say, oh, I need to send 2 corruptors to go deal with this liberator over a mineral line, I don't actually want to allocate a control group to 2 random corruptors because it's late game and there's too much going on. Caps lock. It basically throws those corruptors into a control group
Evolution
oblivion,
completed.
control group,
A new queen
hell,
has emerged.
and suddenly they're something we just manually control separately from our armies. So that's a really nice one.
A mineral
Are you
field
keen
has
on
been
setting that up?
depleted.
Yeah, why
They're
not? So
after my
caps lock will be
drones.
alt and any given number.
Our
we choose.
forces are
Yeah,
under
so
attack.
we'll use 9 because you're already using 0, so 9 is probably the least accessible one. We don't mind changing. So hop
Yep.
back in game and let's set it up now.
Mutation completed.
Yeah. Okay.
Just ignore the replay playing in the background. Hotkeys, and you want to go hotkeys global
Yeah.
We have met the enemy in
control
combat.
groups. So in control groups, we want to go to create control group and take away units, number 9. So that should say alt 9 at the moment, yeah?
Option 9.
Mineral
Yeah.
cluster
yeah.
depleted.
Let's just click the alt 9 and just change it to caps lock. So it should be just caps lock.
Okay. Yeah.
And just accept that, save it. Caps lock isn't used for anything in the game, so it should be good.
Evolution complete. A mineral field has
Did it
been
work?
depleted.
Yeah.
Yep, went through. Cool. We can test that when we're actually in a game, of course. For now, it won't do anything. Let me make sure we test that. Okay. So I'll add this to the top. So we've got drop defense setup. Caps lock is dumping. What do you use for your idle worker key?
I don't use a key.
So if you have a whole bunch of idle workers, do you have a way of selecting them?
I click on the icon usually. Do you think I should put a key as well?
I don't have a key for it. Did you know you can control click that button? And it will select all of the idle drones. So if you have 20 idle drones, rather than individually clicking them. So for those who don't know, watching the stream, there's a button normally next to the
Mineral
minimap.
field
Obviously, I'm on a special overlay, so I don't have it. But in your normal overlay, there's a button there for idle workers. So yeah, if you hold down control, you know how control clicking on a unit is the same as double clicking?
drones
Do
are
you
under
use
attack.
that? Do you control click much?
I usually double click.
Our forces
actually.
are under attack.
Control clicking's a lot better, so we'll
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
control
That's
click.
definitely something I
Mineral,
Yeah.
we have met the
That's
enemy
actually
in
something that's
combat.
really good that came up then. So yeah, basically you use the same thing for that. Just control click on that button. It'll select all your idle workers. Awesome. What about select all army? Do you ever use that or it's unbound?
No, it's unbound. I removed it.
Okay. Select all army. We can also click the button if needed. As a Zerg
Yeah.
player, select all army is the worst
Evolution
thing in the world.
completed.
Exactly. That's why I removed it. And
Yeah.
in the remote situation, I need it. I just need to click it. I can
Our
just click it.
forces are
Just
under
give it a
attack.
click. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, if you're a GM Zerg, I'd be like, oh, we should probably put a hotkey on it just to make it more accessible. You know, we've got enough thousands of games under our belt to choose when to use it and when not to. But in the meantime, it's 1,000 times better to simply just play the safe side and not use it. Yeah. So that's really good though. Yeah.
Yeah, because I figured it will force me to actually control
A
group
new
the
queen
ads.
has emerged.
And so yeah, I introduced it because of that.
Cool. Okay, that's fantastic, man. So far this is all really good stuff. We've got caps lock set up. Regular control group stealing is something we can set up by default. Guess that's a question. Do you ever use overlapping control groups? So like you might have like say banelings
mineral
with your
field has
zerglings
been
on one, but
depleted.
also separately on number 2 at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's
A
something
new
that I would
queen
love
has
to do,
emerged.
but I
Mutation
usually
complete.
don't. And if I
Mineral
do,
field
I
depleted.
usually forgot to use it because I go into panic mode and I move the whole group.
Well, that's actually fine because I don't ever use that. So I have completely exclusive control groups, as in there's never overlapping. And the reason is, you know, at control group stealing, you said you're not quite used to it with the alt key and stuff. It's a little bit different to pressing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm familiar with that. Yeah, because if you just bound, let's say, the banelings to control group 2 as well, then you can move the whole army together, and at will you can press 2 and then control the banelings separately.
Yeah.
Do Alt 2, you will remove it from the control group number 1. So
Yes.
it's different.
Though I actually use the second method where I always use alt.
Okay.
So I actually, you know what control and shift do? And then you use that normally, and then you use alt only when you want to control group steal. You know what I did? I actually went and I took the alt commands and I put them on control and shift. So I actually can't use normal create control group and normal add to control group. I only ever use the alt, but I've just put it onto control and shift.
Our
So I've moved the
drones are under
hotkeys around.
attack.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a bit.
We have met the enemy in
completely different than
combat.
what I used to, but
Yeah. It basically just means you don't need to reach to alt, because that can be a little bit awkward on
Mineral
occasion.
cluster
So it's one of those
mutation
things
complete.
which we can consider doing. I'm actually not going to...
yeah.
the thing is, if you don't have overlapping
A creep
keys
tumor
right
is
now,
under attack.
it's really easy, because it doesn't... The reason I did this is because I was like, yeah, I'm going to learn to use alt. Yeah, I'll remember to use alt. Yeah, I'll remember to use alt. And I was just not doing it. And I said, you know what would be easier? I was like, why don't I do it this way? I'm like, what's the downside? And I realized the downside was pretty low.
Mineral field depleted.
It's just if I fat finger my keyboard a lot. So if you're a player who gets really, really adrenaline rush and just panicky and just smashing random keys on your keyboard, it can screw you up because you're accidentally stealing units onto different control groups rather than, you know, if you accidentally control group something on a different control group, it's not the end of the world. For instance, your hatcheries, right? If you accidentally go, oh, add my hatcheries to my army group, they're still on your hatchery group. But if you use control group stealing as your default, like I do, that also takes your hatcheries off their hotkey, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass. So it punishes you if you're fat fingering. At the same time, it's a good reminder to not fat finger too much. So this is something, yeah, it's kind of like, hey, dude, actually click on the thing you mean to, which is kind of fun. So anyways, that's something we can come back to. Control group stealing is default. Up to you if you want to do this. But let's not spend too much time on this because I don't think that's too important. I think it's nice. But I'd like you as kind of homework to watch the video. I think I linked a video in my info. I'm not sure if you watched it. It was like just like a coaching video of me talking through someone changing their... Let me see. I'll open it up. Let me see. I think I put that in my info. I put 2 videos in there. So one of them is a Jack Attack video.
Our forces are
one of them is me
attack.
coaching someone on Abyssal Reef. Indeed, there we go.
We have met the enemy in combat.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's linked up in your document. Control group stealing as default. I've put it in bold, so you can read that after today. You can go check it out and go, do I want to put this in? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Up to you. The video is linked in chat as well, in case anyone watching wants it. Oh, sorry. Just wanted to say a very quick thank you to Cliggity, who just subscribed. Thank you, Cliggity. Appreciate that, mate. Awesome. Okay, so we've got almost all the mechanics stuff done, which is great. Oh, mouse and keyboard settings. So in the info, I linked you a little blog from Team Liquid where I went over some mouse and keyboard settings. Did you get a chance to look through that?
Oh, no, I forgot about that.
No, don't worry. You forgot about one of the 17 pages of essay that I send you when we set up coaching? I was like, what? Yeah. So terribly unprepared. No, that's fine. You're in Windows 10?
No, Mac. I'm a Mac player. Sorry, guys.
Oh, GG. Okay, that's rough. There's actually some really important settings you need to fix, but you're going to need to. I can't remember how to do them. You're going to need to do it yourself. Okay, so basically,
I can consider it as an homework for me before, in the next days.
I don't know. Anyone in chat? Maybe someone can let us know. Chat's making fun of you for using a Mac, as they always do.
I know, because it's also the computer I got from work, so it's for free. So why not?
Winning. Exactly. No worries, man. So with mouse and keyboard settings, essentially, you need to make sure mouse acceleration is off. I don't know if that's on in Mac by default. I know it is in Microsoft because Microsoft hate accuracy. Make sure mouse acceleration is off. And basically, you need to turn your keyboard repeat rate and repeat delay to the shortest and fastest possible. Oh, you've already done that?
Yes, this I did, yeah.
Okay.
And, acceleration mode, I don't think it's there. This I did it already before watching the documents.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, good. All right, I probably went over that in the fundamentals video as well, actually, right?
Probably, yeah.
I probably go over it in that as well as that blog. Okay, cool. I probably do that. Okay, good. That's good to know because that stuff's pretty important. Most Zergs, you'll recognize when you're watching most pro Zergs these days, they have like 800 APM. And everyone's like, wow. And it's like, just because they've actually gone into their Windows registry and made the repeat rate and repeat delay like even faster, even shorter and faster than what is normally possible. And that's allowed. It's legally allowed. Blizzard said it was fine. But basically, it just allows you to queue up 50 Zerglings in the blink of an eye, that sort of thing. And if you're on the default Windows settings, it's not a big thing, but it's just like, you know, an extra 200 milliseconds every time you want to build a round of Zerglings, and it adds up over the course of a game. That's, I think, the last mechanical stuff. And you just use 3 control camera locations, right? Or do you use 4?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, just 3?
Usually 4, even 5, but it's a bit too much at some point, I think.
Do you center them?
I think. Sorry?
Do you center them on the hatchery?
Yeah, I do.
What technique do you use for that, out of curiosity?
I click on the icon of the hatchery, and then I recenter it. I rebound the key once the hatchery is...
The little portrait picture? Is that what you click on? Okay. Yeah. That's funny. Like Australia or someone does that as well. A lot of people do that. And I was like, I don't like it very much, because I prefer to just double tap my control group once it's added in, but that works just fine as well. So that's okay. Since you're doing that at the start of the game, it's all right.
Yeah, so I double tap on the control group when the hatchery is over, and then I can rebound it. For example, the first hatch, I just double click and then bind it, and then I put F2, F3, and then when they're building, if I have a little bit of time, I click on the icon and they're recenter F2, F3, or F4.
Sorry, you said you double click something?
Double click the hatchery when in the beginning of the game to center completely, and then bound the F1 key, right?
Wait, you can double. Double tapping the control group.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Sorry, just because you said click, I was thinking you were clicking with the mouse on something. No, that makes perfect sense.
Sorry. Yeah.
No worries. I was like, wait, how you can center on something by double clicking it? I was like, is this something I'm going to learn about the game? As I'm always learning some rare little thing I haven't known. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's totally fine then. Yeah. So what you can do, I mean, it doesn't matter. That's fine. That's not important. Awesome. Mechanical stuff's over. Okay. So let's look at the game. So this attack, let's hop into the replay now. You can watch alongside me. This attack.
Should I invite you in the lobby and?
Did
you exit the replay?
Yeah, before yes, because I was.
Evolution complete.
Oh, okay. You should have just tabbed out. Just Alt Tab next time. That's fine. Yeah, we can hop back into the replay together. No worries. Yeah, you can always just leave the replay running in the background, and that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
No
yeah,
worries.
it's gonna take me 2 seconds, and then.
Yeah. It's just nice to have the replay already all played through, because then we can kind of jump to whichever point in the game. Doesn't make a difference, because we're going to need to look at the early game anyway. So there was a few points there. What was really interesting is there is so much dropping on the ladder from Terrans to try and beat their opponents, and you've clearly been traumatized by it, because you end up with like an army defending your 3 bases. Like an army, like a huge amount of units. So essentially it's because you didn't, rather than setting up map control and more vision and that sort of stuff, you were leaving gigantic numbers of units at home. And you actually had like 3 groups, one in your main, your natural, and your third at one point. So like just these vast numbers of units. So definitely something where I think map control is going to be a theme in what we talk about. That's something which you already mentioned you weren't so good at replacing Zerglings and that sort of stuff. I think overall it looks like, a lot of the pieces are going in a generally good direction. Like I'm 8 times speeding this, I'm not really looking at every exact detail, but it seems like, okay, like the general order is decent. We're seeing a few very common mistakes with the rule of 1 gas. But so overall, yeah, very common mistakes. Okay. Cool. Bam. But overall, not too bad. How long have you been doing this build order?
The thing is this, I started in the beginning, when I started to play, actually, even when I was in silver.
Yep.
and I tried to do it, and it was very bad because my macro really was terrible.
Yeah.
And then I stopped doing it because it was a bit too much, and I went for Roach Hydra builds because they were easier for me. And now I went back again.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right. So let's just start from scratch here, and let's go right through it from the very beginning. I've got a good feel for what we're going to see in this game now. So, awesome. Let's do it. Okay, so ZvT, World of Sleepers. All right, let's go take a look. So, first things first, let's start with every single minute, tiny little tip. So, doubling up workers is nice, is really nice. Always rally your drones as you build them at the start to different mineral patches that only have one worker on them. This just means there's a higher chance of your drone popping out and hopefully going to a mineral patch that doesn't have anyone doubled up on it yet. And that can be really big, because if we go right back here, and there's not that much going on early, we're going to notice here.
I can do it here. Yeah.
That you see you've got this central middle patch, which you're rallied to, and it's got 3 workers on it.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there's multiple mineral patches that only have a single worker on it.
Especially
so this is also
a close patch. Yeah.
Yeah, and
patch in the top left with 1 worker.
Yeah, and 2 down from that one as well. Just got a second worker recently. Yeah. So prioritize close patches, because they also have a lot more minerals, right? 1800 minerals versus just 900. So we want those to be mined more, because the more mineral patches we have available, the more drones we can have effectively mining. That's awesome. So we want to prioritize close patches. Sometimes you do need to spam click with that drone. So obviously if a drone pops out and there's already another drone mining, it'll automatically go to a different patch. So just try to double those up a little bit. And even just the very basic thing from one of Day9's first StarCraft II videos, where he's just talking about, hey, just click the egg on a patch, click the egg on a patch, click the egg on, so that they're already rallied to separate patches. And that way, even if we don't look at it, there's a better chance of it working out. So that's nice. It's a small thing, but it does make a difference though. Your hatchery, I'm pretty sure, went down right on time. His hatch gas pool, pretty standard opening. I think we're a 19 Overlord guy, or are we a 20 Overlord guy?
20.
That's...
Oh, 21. I slipped here then. Okay.
Yeah, we've forgotten it.
Oh, that's bad.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, that's the first big mistake then.
It's not the end of the world. If you delayed it any longer, it would have been a real pain in the butt. You do have 18 workers on minerals in the main. I'm fine with that. I do try to hover close to 16, but I think at the start, as long as you don't go over 18, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But you didn't build any Zerglings here either in a ZvT, and now you're losing multiple drones for no reason.
A new queen has emerged.
Okay, cool. So let's just go. I personally go 19 Overlord every game. But if you want to go 20, that's fine. I think 19 is nice, but it's really up to you.
Our forces
just 19, 20
attack.
Overlord was forgotten. How many lings do you build first, Terran?
Usually I do 4 lings for the Reaper. Okay. But here I forgot. So
4 lings was forgotten. Yep. How do you? What time does your third base go down with your execution? What time do you aim for that?
So the build I'm trying to do is 3:30. Is when I go back, I put back 2 drones on gas, and then I take a third hatch.
Yeah.
But here
evolution completed.
Yeah. So you're massively supply blocked on 36, and that's because your Overlord went down. So this is a big mistake. Why was our Overlord just rallied straight to our opponent's natural from the very beginning of the game? As soon as we don't have anything else going on, we should be clicking that in a direct position. So this brings us to something else. You're not control grouping your first 2 Overlords. So this is something you should always be doing. So, first Overlord is control group 1. Second Overlord is control group 2. Now, obviously, they're going to get taken over by Zerglings and stuff pretty quickly. but for the first 3 minutes of the game, this is your army. That's your main army. That's your secondary army, right? And it's because if you don't do it, then you got to click on the minimap, you got to box it, you got to tell it to move somewhere. At the start, you might just click it across the map and you're building your drone, you're building your overlord, you're setting your rally point, you're doubling your workers up. But at some point, we want to be able to very easily just select one and click that into the correct position. And same with the second overlord. So we want to make sure those overlords are very easily microed around. And it also just, gets us used to using those control groups and that sort of stuff. So that's going to be big. Also, notice how you started losing the overlord.
Our forces are
even earlier than this. Check this out. So, watch from your camera. Okay, the Reaper's distracting you, so that's part of why we're distracted. But to be honest, he's actually not attacking the overlord yet. So he's gonna move down with those Marines right now, and he's gonna kill that overlord. So we notice immediately.
We have met the.
So if you know your overlord's getting killed,
build a new one.
Yeah. Build an extra overlord immediately. Now we don't do that. But not just that, we are already late on building our regular overlord. So you build one overlord. Usually if your overlord's getting killed, it means you're distracted and screwing things up. So generally, you need to build 2 or 3 overlords, right? Because you need to be building regular overlords as well, plus your regular overlords. So usually 2 to 3 overlords. So the way I just think of it is if my overlord starts getting shot by a stalker or a marine, I don't think it can get to safety, or I'm not sure. I just build 2 or 3 overlords straight away. And that really stops the hurt. Because right now, we've got, a big supply block here on 36, which is a real pain in the butt. And that's really rough. So other than that, what about creep spread? When do you normally spread creep? First inject? Or the third queen that pops out, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we need it earlier than that. Because if that queen gets delayed even a little bit, it's going to be super late. So what's even better than that is... queen at natural spreads creep, becomes creep queen after first inject. So you can immediately put that on W after the very first inject right at this point and move it over there. What do you think? It will mean your injects are slightly out of sync if you don't start your third queen straight away, but it should be pretty close. Like if you had that third queen building straight away, your main base and your natural would be very, very close. So it'll end up.
So you inject the first inject with the second queen at the natural. You bind it to the creep defense, creep spread defense group, and at the same time there is a second queen build, a third queen building, and the natural already.
Hells yes, exactly, perfect, perfect. I think this is really good, by the way. I want to encourage you more and more if I say anything, because I will sometimes just rush through things. Please, whenever you can, repeat it just like what you just did. That is perfect. I can tell you that mentally rehearsing it in your head, that's what you want to be doing. The same thing when you're watching a replay and you see yourself screw something up. Rehearse it step by step, just like what you did there. That's exactly how you want to be learning in StarCraft. That's perfect.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I got the principle. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So the opening was a little slow. And this is huge because your creep spread is something which is exponential, right? So one creep tumor starts very slow. Go to everyone's camera. You can see my signals, yeah?
Yes, I see.
Yeah. So if you're ever on an individual player's camera, you can't see me putting these signals down, but that's cool. But you can see, like, if Hellions were already here, you would never get your creep out, right? But if you've got a creep tumor out here and here, suddenly Hellions, Marines, anything, Banshee, they can't stop your creep. It's just going to start exploding in every direction, right? So creep is super, super powerful. Not just that, it helps you defend your third. Like right now, imagine if Hellions came in. These drones in your third would just be toast, right? You'd have to... you've got no way of getting over there. It's really nasty.
Also because I have no overload watching the entrance of the third.
Exactly. Well. So you've got a great habit with the overlords in the back, right? It's just that's not meant to happen until you've set up your vision. So can you signal on the minimap where you think your overlords should go?
So the signal is Alt G or something?
Yep. Alt G, left click.
One here. Then here.
Okay, so that's one out front the third, one out front the natural. It's kind of the same position. So that maybe that other one. So you see you did one here and one here. They're kind of the same, right? So
Okay,
maybe you could just do one just down the bottom of the ramp instead. Maybe there. But good, right idea. So continue.
Yeah, so I was saying, okay. And then maybe, now that I'm watching it more carefully, I would put also one here for a drop. To watch drop coming at my third.
Awesome.
Probably.
So basically, your first overlord... Do you send your first overlord or your first two across the map?
The first and then the second I send it later. When there is no proxy rack or the window of proxies is gone. Basically.
Okay. So with you, it's your first and second overlords to scout. Your third to fourth outside your natural and third base. And then your fifth and sixth go on the edges.
Okay.
And you can do that in every matchup. Right?
Perfect.
Because if you think about it,
Our forces are under attack.
you always want to have these, and these ones out front are the most important, right? Those ones for spotting Hellions. Which angle are the Hellions coming from? Oh, there's a depth coming in. Give us an extra 10 seconds of warning. It's massive to have these overlords out front. Same thing for seeing Ling Bane coming in. Same thing, you know, it's the same in all matchups. The edges. Okay, maybe not as important against Zerg, but you know what? Good to spot in case they've got a bloody Overseer spotting for a Nidus Worm, right? And then you can at least see it going up. Important to see Oracles coming in. Important to see Warp Prisms coming in. Important for Banshees drops. So it's one of these things where I really like that because it should get us excited. Whenever there's a habit we can have across all three matchups where it's basically the same, that's awesome because it means we can practice this every game. So this is something like I really want you to hit hard and just to make a default part of your game. Because that's going to be really big. So
Great.
I guess the other thing that kind of went a little awry with your opening build order in this game was the queen production didn't quite ramp up as quickly as it needed to. Now, this is kind of a flow-on effect partially from the supply blocks and so on from earlier. But it's definitely something where we see, okay, for instance, third queen is super duper late, right? So normally, you know, you'd be getting that third queen. You'd have the third hatch down by now, you know.
Evolution completed.
And then you'd, at 2 base saturation roughly, normally about 345 or so at this point, we should be at a bit higher in workers. The supply blocks obviously hurt us. We should be at 2 bases saturated. We should be going non-stop queen production from here, right? And hopefully ramping that queen count up. But you can see in this game, we kind of pause for quite a while on our queen count. We're only on 3. And it's just because everything's a little bit slower than we'd like it to be. We do finally start pumping out queens, but like our third hatch is so late, it can't produce queens until a bit later as well. So there's a bit of a flow-on effect there. As I said, the general orders there is just everything's slowed down, and ironing out these early mistakes is going to make such a huge difference. I'm not expecting you to be perfect in your build, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of people looking at this going, well, you were floating 2,000 minerals for quite a while in the mid-game. You were? I don't care about that as much. This is a very economic build. It's very natural to float some minerals. What's important though is how long do we when do we freeze up? How long do we sit there on those minerals without spending them? So he distracted you here, which was part of why we do float a lot of minerals. And we're kind of still at this point we're putting on gas. So I'm going to go back a little bit. One thing I noticed when I skimmed the replay was this. So you're at a pretty good worker count here at about 5 minutes. So check it out. You're at 51 going up to 58 workers at 5 minutes, okay? 3 bases look pretty saturated. You see 16 out of 16 on all 3. Now this is a point where a lot of Zerg's brain says, I have enough workers, I don't need more workers because I have 16 on each base. That's all I need. And that's completely wrong because you need to build so many buildings and so many gases, right? You need to put so many. Yes. So you need like 30 more workers. And you might be like, 30? That's 80 workers. No, it's not. You're going to put like 15 of those into buildings. You know, it's actually crazy how many drones you lose from those buildings. So
yeah, absolutely. Because only for the gases each is for the natural, and the third you need 8. And then you need another 4 for the gas and the main. And then you need 2 Evo chambers, another 2, the Baneling nest, another 3.
Exactly.
It's many. Yeah.
It adds up, doesn't it?
A
So
new queen has
at this point,
emerged.
notice you've got a few lava sitting there that we're not using. Like we just built 3 more drones. We're taking some gas. We've kind of got lava sitting there, and then we're kind of going inject. Okay, we're going to inject. We're going to inject. And we're going to our natural. Interesting. We've got so we're not sticking to our macro cycles, and you can see we're kind of taking our gas in a slightly disorganized manner. So we kind of we kind of just that. This is the hardest part of this build. This is the part everyone screws up. So this is the part we really want to work on refining. So basically, you can imagine here at this point, it would be really nice if we started saying, look, I can't just be manually injecting every random second. We want to try to be batching up our orders wherever possible. We want to still be droning really hard. We want to go gas, change rally point, gas, change rally point. And I saw you did that, by the way, the change the rally point technique as you take the gases. But it's just something where, remember to drone well beyond saturation, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. The other thing is, at this point, keep hitting full macro cycles. This is the point where people start doing that. So what do I mean by that? I mean inject, 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 all 3 hatches. Spend most of your lava on units and the last few on overlords. Or do you do overlords and then units? What do you prefer?
I do units and then overlords usually.
Yeah, I do the same. I like to hold down drones or zerglings and just leave the last few lava for overlords. Or if I forget to do that, I come back 20 seconds later and I just queue up or 10 seconds later and just queue up, overlords with whatever lava's popped out. So that's a good way of doing it.
I do the same. If I forget, if I hold it too much, I tend to go back and build more overlords just with the first lava that are popping. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we saw here is you went inject, inject, inject. Check it, inject. So watch from your camera. Inject, inject, inject. And then you're going to go spread creep. So you built... Okay, you built 2 pairs of zerglings. Okay, that time we didn't have that much lava. Then we go, okay, double evo. Baling nest.
A new queen has emerged.
Inject, inject. Queued up another queen, I think. Okay, now we're taking gases at our 3rd. We've got, lava's kind of popping out haphazardly, and then we keep looking back at our hatcheries. So I'm looking at this, I'm going, wait, why are we looking at our hatcheries literally every 5 seconds? So what you're doing is you're going evo chambers, inject hatcheries. Take gases, inject hatcheries. Spread creep, inject hatcheries. So you're trying to inject your hatcheries too often, right? You're trying to do it almost constantly at this point. This is what happens at moments where there's a bit too much going on or we're a bit unclear. Some sort of underlying habit sometimes takes over, right? Where it's like, I got to inject my hatcheries. I'm a Zerg player, man. This is what I do. So it's kind of good to look at that and say, hey, wait a second. I don't need to do that quite so much. Awesome. So I think what we can look at there is say, okay, keep hitting full macro cycles. Keep droning nice and hard. And then in between those macro cycles, add all those gases and evo chambers, etc. So something else there.
Forces are under attack.
So you go 2 evos and baning nest all at once.
A new queen
Let me
has
double check
emerged.
that.
Yeah.
I want to look at how we did this. Do you just box the drones on the minerals? Is that how you do that?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. All right, we're gonna do it in a second. I'm trying to catch it.
We have met the enemy in combat.
All right, we boxed the drones. We boxed 4 drones. Evo, and the bait nest. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the right technique. Just double checking that. Because I thought you might have reselected a separate drone to build the baneling nest. But you didn't. That's good. That was nice and efficient. So that's really good. I like that you're batching those buildings together. That's very nice. And your gases are going down. Cool. I think you're doing okay here. Yeah, it just would have been nicer to try to do the gases all kind of in one big go. So, yeah. Batch all the gases at the same time. So it's one big cycle of adding gases and putting drones on them.
Yeah, it's more ordered, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it just takes so much of our APM and our mental attention as well, trying to be like, oh wait, which did I take all the, oh, I could put the guys on gas on the natural, because they start happening at different times. So think about this in terms of how many different timers have just entered your brain. You've gone 2 gases on the third, 1 gas on the main, 2 gases on the natural. Now the one in the main and the natural are similarly timed, but yeah, they're a bit closer. But either way, it's just like, because you've built them at separate times, that's 2 different things you had to do, but then you also need to double up on that. Because you then need to put workers on each of those gases. So it's like, oh, I need to do it on the third at one point, then 10 seconds later, 15 seconds later, I need to go do it in the main and the natural. Whereas if we can do it all at once, it's just 2 big sets of actions, which is a little bit easier for us to kind of process, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. The other big one is double macro hatch every game. Until you're consistently spending all your money, especially if you have over 1,000 minerals, double macro hatch and 4th base much quicker every game. So would you already have a camera location key on your 4th base in this game? Or did you say it was only 3 bases? I forget.
I probably will set it a bit later. I set the first 3, usually in the beginning of the game, and then later on I set the 4th. Yeah.
If you can set your 4th location at the start, it just makes it much easier to take the base. Like, let's find them. So at this point, you can see, like, I'm looking at the minerals and just going, double macro hatch, 4th base, go, 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 go. Because the quicker we get that, so powerful, right? Just that extra production is so big. Okay, here we go. This is the moment. So let's look at how long it takes us to take that 4th, and we can kind of double check that. Because you're gonna grab a drone and do it. But let's see. It's because it should be F3, select drone, F4, build hatch click. If we've got both camera locations set up. Instead, here we go. F3, inject, select drone, click. You did it pretty quick. That was pretty good. That was good mouse accuracy. So that was pretty good. Sometimes players take a while. They misclick a bit or something and they're kind of scrolling around. That was not bad. That was pretty good. But if you can set the 4th location at the start, it just makes it that little bit easier for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So here in the mid game as well, I would say don't ever drone past this point. 3 base saturation. You're missing 2 workers on a gas in your main, but other than that, you don't need this many workers, any more than this, because you're going to struggle to spend the money on it, and it's more important for you at your current APM and speed and everything depleted. To have more units. Like right now, you have no idea what's happening in this game, other than there's been a tiny drop, and you're droning a 4th base. You don't really know what's going on until he floated this 3rd base over your Zergling. You had no idea. He could be doing a 2 base all in, right?
We have met the enemy in combat.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So not only is droning the 4th base super greedy normally for like a pro player even, like if there hasn't been a big fight or they don't know what's happening, but I think for us, I see GM players who never go past 60 workers. Like they don't even get 3 full base saturation, but they focus more on the tactics. So I think we might be a little bit too economically focused.
So you suggest to go for 3 bases saturation with this style?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to transfer workers from your main down to your 4th, like around this point anyway, around 8 minutes, 8 minutes 30. So it's kind of you'll get use out of it. But yeah, like if you do drone it,
mineral cluster
you do it after some fighting's happened, after you've got control of the game, right? So mid game, only allowed to drone a 4th after you have full control of the game. So what does that mean? Whenever you're at this stage in the mid game, like in this game, you went Hydroden, Infestation Pit, you go for Hive and Spire really quickly. We're going for all this crazy tech. We want to be a bit more mid game focused. Usually that's where games are won or lost in StarCraft until you get to a very high level, right? So what you want to focus on as a player here is don't focus on Hive, focus on your mid game, right? So what do we need for mid-game control? What are we missing? If we look at your minimap right now, what are some of the most important things that you should focus on?
Spotters and creep.
Creep, spotting units, spotting lings. So where do we want to put lings? Expansions, attack paths, also overlords, right?
We have met the enemy
on drop paths, edges of the map. At this point of the game, even if they had a Viking earlier, I would put them everywhere. So if you go to everyone's camera again, I would be like bam, 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 bam. I would put overlords everywhere on this map.
I see.
Yeah, so at some point in the mid game, even if there was a Viking earlier, I would just box these overlords in my main, and I would just do the shift deselecting.
Yeah, the cloning thing.
Send 7 or 8 with cloning. Yes, perfect, beautiful. So that would be really big, because right now at this point, if you were just building Lingbane, spreading creep, getting that vision out, and just like build army, build army, build army, and that's what you've really got to focus on in the mid game, is massing army, right? So what else are we going to focus on? It's just macro cycles of army production, creep, and engagements. And that's more than enough for your APM. Stay on lair and practice pure Hydra Lingbane for a long time. Because that composition lasts till very late in the game. It's like a really good composition. You'll probably never play anyone until you get to like Masters or GM who's actually, unless they're like a really defensive turtley mech player, and even then you should probably break them when they move out to a new expansion or something. But most players you can break with this composition. And the thing is, you want your goal to be spreading creep across 80% of the map, right? You want to be looking to split your units off and attack and that sort of stuff. So in this game, right, this player started with this drop here, right, which we should have seen coming a mile away with those overlords and zerglings and stuff. He drops the main as well. And the thing is, at this point, we got really like, oh shit, man. He's like dropping everywhere. So from here onwards, we're actually going to see us split like a crazy number of units off in the near future. So we split one group off at the third, but we're also going to split a group off into the main in the near future. Yeah, and then you see we attacked with our whole army down here. So what's funny is, yeah, now you end up with 3 control groups, a little bit more than we really need. Whereas if you think about it, remember the normal pattern I was talking about at the start of today with if the main army is down here on the bottom, where it is right now, then you just need the drop defense squad on the top. 2 control groups to defend. You never need more than 2 control groups to defend your bases. If that's not working for you, it means you're not in position and you've got shitty map vision, right? And even then, it's like, no, like this group should be able to clear up the drop on the third and then run down here and clear up that drop. Because the moment you get to 3 control groups defending, you're, number 1, leaving too much shit at home, and number 2, you're making it too hard to micro and control. And that's when we go, I'm going to go for, this is what we call the Zerg headbutt. So this is what every Terran player hopes for if they're way behind. It's the Zerg to just go, I've sat in my corner of the map all game, I feel like attack moving. And that's exactly what you did here. You attacked with your units in a gigantic column, which is the worst possible formation to attack. You always want to make sure you're clumping up beforehand. You know, you can spread them a little bit, but not like this. Look at your army. It's in a column. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And this is so common, in ZvT especially. Players who are trying to learn macro go, cool, I built some stuff. Now what do I do? Let's headbutt. and I'm telling you, even in GM, I win games like this, where I'm like, people like, you're dead, leave the game, pig. And I'm like, actually, no, he's a Zerg player. He might headbutt. He might do the Zerg headbutt. And I'll just build like planetaries and tanks and I'll sit there. And like half the time they'll just be like, derp, and they'll just try to run into planetaries and tanks in like a one-directional fight. And I'll go, okay, cool. That was the only way I could win this game, but thank you, you know. And this is what a lot of Zerg players do. So
talked about it, this replay. I did it with my colleague at work. He's playing the Terran. And so he told me, like, when he saw the column running like this, he said, yeah, this is like exactly like what you shouldn't.
This is peak Zerg play. This is It's so funny. So I mean, this is part of why we want to have a clear idea of when we stop macroing and focusing on droning as much and tech. And this is why I don't want you to focus on Hive and these 3-3 and all this shit. Even though they're all useful things, you only have so much attention. And right now you're already macroing far harder than anyone at your level. Let's focus on using that macro. Let's actually get it to pay off. Some people are like, it's just about how much you spend your money in StarCraft. That's all that matters. I'll tell you what, if you do just a little bit of micro and engaging properly and map control and vision and spreading creep, just a little bit of all those things, your macro is worth 10 times as much. 10 times as much. It's worth so much more. So if you as a player can focus on that, that's going to be amazing for you. So stay on there. Practice pure Hydraling Bane for a long time. Try to get creep to their side of the map. Do more counterattacks, you know, and backstabs, right? So that attack there, what would I have done? Well, he's only on 3 base now. I'm not sure. Maybe he had that 4th. But basically, I would have said, okay, main army here, and I would have had like 50 Zerglings and Banelings up here. You see where I signal?
Yes, yes, yes.
And then it's like the main army goes in, and as he comes to defend it, it pulls back, and the other side, we literally just A move. We don't even look at it. You've got so much money with this style, right? You got so much money, and you just like, you know, he's not going to be in position for both fights. And you just keep doing that sort of thing. And you never let your opponent take expansions for free, which is what we've done this game, right? So if we think about it, we took the worst possible fight into a really bad angle, off creep. We left half of our army defending drops that weren't there at that time. And we let him land 2 bases, which he had no army defending at the same time. That's where individual Zerglings, creep spread knocking on his doorstep, us setting up 2-pronged attacks, all this stuff comes into play. And you can do so much cool shit with run-bys and stuff, man. So I'd like you to have a sort of mental focus that shifts into much more multi-prong, run-bys, creep spread, more tactical, controlling the map, having vision once you get past this 3-4 base setup, okay? So early game, macro defend, swap into controlling and dominating the map.
Yes, yes, I see it.
Awesome.
Early game opening is, the goal is to get to 3 bases saturation plus micro hatches and 4th, and then switch the microcycle
Mineral
into
cluster
units,
depleted.
overlords basically, until I'm like I have a big army supply, and then try to deny bases by like, you know, poking and packing somewhere and then attacking the other side or so.
Hells yeah,
Try
man.
to, you know, destabilize the opponent. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so we're out of time. So